So I'm going to talk about new drugs and new strategies. First of all, strategies. We have got specific strategies that we use today based on guidelines which incorporates 2 nucleosides in every sort of regimen. So one of the strategies to say, well look, the nucleosides have problems, they have toxicity and they cost money. So if you could remove them from the formula, you would then be left with either monotherapy or you'd be left with dual therapy without the nucleosides. So how can we do that? Well, there have been people doing big randomized studies looking at monotherapy. And really monotherapy's best place is in maintenance, when you're already undetectable and you move to monotherapy. But then the issue is that some of those patients, up to a third, will get their viral load will go up and you have to give them more drugs. However, dual therapy might be something different. And the most exciting dual therapy that data we've got so far is from Gardell's study, which looked at lopinavir plus standard nucleosides versus lopinavir and just 3TC. 3TC is generic, so it's cheap, it's got very few side effects, and it's easily tolerated in the short and long term. So that would be a big advantage to patients to have that sort of regimen. And when they've done the study of over 200 patients in each arm, at 48 weeks they found non-inferiority. They're very similar in the way that they affect the viral load, and there's less toxicity, as you might expect, in those patients who have this nuke limiting strategy. So we need to see the 96-week data, and it would be great to have a bigger study, and also perhaps do studies with other protease inhibitors or other drugs, plus just 3TC. The next part of strategy really is to say, what about new formulations? And it's interesting that the boosted PI companies are now putting their protease inhibitor together with cobicistat, so it's, instead of ritonavir, and making single tablets, which is good for patients because instead of taking 2 pills for your boosted PI, you can just take 1. So both darunavir with cobicistat and atazanavir with cobicistat is going ahead. We already have lopinavir, ritonavir as a combo pill, but it's good that the other 2 are going to do that. And then finally, new drugs. Well, the new drug issue is quite interesting. We have a new form of tenofovir called TAF, and the interesting thing about this drug is that you don't have a lot of tenofovir free in the plasma, and you don't have a lot being concentrated inside the cells causing toxicity. This is a sort of prodrug which gets into the cell, gets changed to the active moiety, and then gets incorporated into the growing chain for the HIV virus and then terminates it. But the main thing is it doesn't accumulate in the cell and you don't get toxicity, so you get less renal and less bone toxicity. We need to see the big results from the clinical trials, but that looks promising. The other interesting drug is another integrase, 722, which you can put with rilpivirine. And why is that interesting, this integrase and rilpivirine? It's because they're making nanoparticles, and it might be that you could give this drug combination once a month. And imagine that, you just go along, have an injection once a month. Now, not everyone wants it. A lot of people like pills every day, but there are groups of patients where that could happen, and you could reduce all the problems with adherence. So that's quite exciting, and it's looking quite good and less toxic, and we need to know what the further data is. And then BMS have got an attachment inhibitor which works by basically stopping the virus getting into the cell. It doesn't work for everybody, because if you've got some natural conformational change in envelope, it won't work. But in those that it does work in, it looks very promising. And actually for people with highly resistant virus, for people who have toxicities, it's just another drug that we might have on board. And so I think that will be another development that we're looking forward to in terms of novel drug development. So overall, we've got new strategies coming along. They haven't all been shown in trials to be successful, but some are making a way forward. We've got new formulations which helps patients' lives better. And then we've got some new drugs which might be useful in reducing toxicity and in also improving adherence. And finally, in those patients who have very few options, might help them get their viral load undetectable.